Thanks for joining us today. We're going to start with Aidan McGee from Sky Sports News. Thank you.
Hello, Roy. How you doing? All right.
Fine, thanks. Aidan, yourself?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Can I start with some injury news, please, if there is any?
No, it's the same as before we travelled to Sheffield. James McArthur, of course, is still missing. Mamadou Sakho is still missing. Connor Wickham. Nathan Ferguson is back in training with the team now, which is really good news, especially for him after such an enormously long layoff. But otherwise, everyone's fit, so I have a good squad at the moment.
Is there any chance that in the remaining games Nathan might get to be seen by the Palace fans? Would he be at that level yet, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think that would be very foolish after all he's gone through to get to the stage he's in now, with the season so close to an end and a chance to do a really good pre-season with the team and make certain he's 100% fit when the next season starts. I think it would be very foolish to throw him in and risk something happening which would disturb that possibility of a good pre-season.
What's left to achieve then this season, Roy? I mean, you've fulfilled the main aim of preserving Premier League status for a ninth successive year, but I imagine you don't want the campaign to just fizzle out.
No, I don't think anyone at this stage of the season, we're not alone in the position we find ourselves in. Most of the excitement is going to be around the third relegation place and the positions for UEFA, in Champions League. There's a big group of us in the middle that probably haven't got that much to play for. But no one will want the season to fizzle out. And, every Premier League game is a big occasion, and it's very important that players understand that. They're being watched by a lot of people. They're being judged by a lot of people. They need to make certain that their judgments are positive ones, and they can only do that by giving good performances. So I should be very disappointed if we in any way fizzle out. We have a tough programme, so it's not going to be a given that we can go and take points willy-nilly, but that's what we're definitely going to try and do.
And now the fact that you're mathematically safe, will that accelerate any discussions over your future or that of any of your out of contract players?
No, I mean, I think that's been going on basically in the background all the time anyway. I don't think it's like that in football clubs that you wait for a moment in time and then suddenly you make big decisions. As far as I'm concerned, the next games we've got coming up are the most important things, certainly as far as my future and what I intend to do is concerned, and for the players as well. So I think it's important that we keep on working towards those games because, as you've rightly said a minute ago, we don't want this season to fizzle out. We don't want bad performances, and we don't want anybody to be able to point a finger and say, well, the performances were provoked, because we have done anything to provoke it.
Would you regard this summer, though, as more significant, perhaps, for the future of this football club than maybe some in the recent past? I mean, there are some big decisions to be made at various levels, as you've mentioned in recent past.
Yeah, I understand the point you're making. I don't know that I could put up a big argument against what you're saying. I can only say, of course, I think that for every football club at the level of the Premier League, every summer and every transfer window and every period, if you like, where you're planning the next season is of incredible importance. But, you're right in saying that this year that there will be changes in the squad. There's no doubt about that, because we are likely to lose some players and maybe lose some players who've been here for an awful long time. So that will, I think, add a different perspective and a different dimension to this particular summer period. But the club's in a good position to confront that, not least of all because of the successive ninth or the successive 8 seasons and leading to a ninth, which is so important, but also because the team is good. We have a very good and solid base here with this team. So in actual fact, it'll be a question of what can be done to make the existing team that bit better. It's not as if the team in any way is in danger of collapse. We've shown that quite comfortable, I think, during the course of this season.
What have you made of Southampton lately? I mean, it's a big ask for your players to get a result there, considering the schedule you're all on and the fact that you were in Sheffield on Saturday evening and you've got to travel down to Southampton for Tuesday. It's quite a big demand when we're all facing big demand schedule-wise anyway.
Yes, we are. I mean, that's our fixture I won't dare call it a pile-up. It's just an extra midweek fixture. It comes about, of course, through the cup final. There's no doubt about that. You know, that getting to the cup semi-final, as Southampton did, meant they couldn't play that day, and now we play the game midweek. But I've got no qualms or no complaints about that. I don't see the players anyway showing these signs of, oh, this is going to be tough because we're tired. I don't see that at all. I think we'll be as tonic at the start of the game as we were when we played Sheffield United. And if it's a big ask, it's a big ask for all of the teams at this moment in time. I'm looking at the fixtures this week, and every night there's, extra fixtures to be played. There's lots of travelling for the players. So no complaints at all on my part with regard to that.
Just finally, for me, outside of Palace business, if I may, UEFA are holding discussions on where the Champions League final will take place today. Do you think it makes sense from a football perspective for moving it from Istanbul to Wembley, given that it's an all-English final?
I personally don't think it makes sense from a football perspective. It makes sense, yes, but in which case that changes everything that's ever happened with regard to European finals, and that is a year in advance. A decision is made where the final should be held this year. Up to now, it's never been decided at the last minute, depending upon which teams have reached the final. But I do think it makes an awful lot of sense to change it on this occasion, simply because of the COVID situation in Turkey and the fact that it's on a red list, which will mean that both players, staff and fans are going to find it very difficult to attend the game. So that's where I think there is a very big argument for moving it. And of course, if they are going to move it, then it would make even more sense if, on this occasion, they moved it to England, where we've got a fantastic stadium in Wembley and there's two English teams in the final. But in general terms, I still respect the fact that at the start of each year, UEFA decides to choose a venue and, if you like, honour a country with their venue being the one that hosts the Champions League final that year. That principle, for me, should still remain in place and shouldn't suddenly be changed every year, depending upon which two teams reach the final.
Just before I hand onwards, Roy, was there any time in your career when you've had to be involved in European finals or European matches, ties, or anything like that being moved for any reasons that relate to this?
Well, obviously, this COVID's a first in my lifetime, let alone my career. So there's been nothing like that. We had big problems with Fulham. I think it was the quarter-final game in Hamburg where we got hit by the ash storm. If you remember the ash storm over Iceland, and it was one very, very difficult journey we had to make by sea and then by coach and over several days to reach Hamburg and back. And that definitely affected both myself and the players, because it meant that our schedule was thrown out totally by that. But apart from that, no. I mean, the finals that I've been involved in, both of the first final was a two-legged affair, one home, one away, and the second final was, funnily enough, once again in Hamburg against Atletico Madrid. And by that time, the ash clouds had passed by, and we could fly there in normal terms.
Thanks, Roy. Nice to see you.
So do you, Aidan.
Thanks, Aidan. What's Alex Howell, BBC.
Hi, Roy.
Alex.
I'd just like to ask a question about Eberechi Eze. Had a very good game against Sheffield last time. And is it just kind of ask how you've seen him grow over the season and how good you think he can be?
I think that he's had a good season. There's no question of that. I think it's been nice that on not just this occasion, but there's even been other games where he really has shown his skills to the utmost, and everyone's picked up on it, and I'm really pleased about that. But I will be most pleased this year with the way he's settled in, the way he's become such a team player, the way he works very hard to absorb any tactical information and do the things that the team requires of him, apart from, of course, the mazy dribbles and the excellent ball control, which we're blessed with also. I would hope that he will use this season to good use, that he will, take stock. He knows that he has these excellent technical abilities. He knows that, he is a good player, capable of becoming a really good player at the very highest level. But there's still a bit of learning to be done. There's still a bit of experience to be gained. And I just hope that he can produce more performances like the one he did against Sheffield at the weekend. But I hope even more that things aren't going to sort of be, what's the word, talked about, or him being built up to an extent that it makes it difficult for him to continue the progress. His progress for me has been solid. It's been there all the time. I've seen him getting better. We know what he can do. We know that he's capable of what he did on Saturday against Sheffield. But I think it's going to be a pity if all of a sudden now, every time he doesn't reach that enormously high level, people are going to be asking questions about him. Or I think it's going to be a pity if he's not given the time to continue progressing at the pace that he's been progressing, because he's a modest young man. I think he understands that at this stage of his life he's at the threshold of a fantastic career, but the threshold sometimes can be quite a long and large threshold. You don't just step over it with one simple pace.
And just lastly from me, lots of managers say you have to be wary of Southampton and their set piece delivery. Is that a big worry when you come up against them?
Yeah, not just them. I'm afraid quite a few teams now pose that threat, but they are exceptionally good. James Ward-Prowse has been fantastic with his ball striking. The way he takes corners and free kicks, and the way he takes direct free kicks centrally. More and more teams, I fear, have players of that sort of ability. So every game you play, you have to be very wary that a good ball is going to be coming in here, and it's not going to be easy for us to deal with. But I can only praise James Ward-Prowse and Southampton and congratulate them on the strength, if you like, of that side of their game, and because it's a side of their game that's been worked on. I know James has worked on it for many years. He was pretty good when he was with the under-21s and I was with the national team, but that's 5-6 years ago now, so he's got better, even better since that time.
Thanks, Roy, and good luck.
Thanks, Alex.
So go to Rebecca Coles, PLP.
Hi, Roy. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Roy, you secured Premier League safety at the weekend. How relieved are you?
How many?
How relieved are you that you secured Premier League?
Relieved. Yeah, not really relieved, to be honest. Very happy and satisfied to pass that magical 40-point mark. But I've got to say that I've believed for a long time that we've been safe. We've not been in the relegation zone at all this season. In fact, someone told me the other day we've not been in the relegation zone for the last 3 and a bit years. Just that first period of time when I came in and found the team in the relegation zone, and it took a while to move out of it. So I've actually not been concerned really that relegation's a threat for us and there's a knife at our throat. But on the other hand, it's we've built up, I think, over the years the magical 40-point mark. If you get to 40 points, you're going to be fine. And the sooner you get there, the happier you should be. So there was certainly a lot of satisfaction to win that game against Sheffield and see us pass that mark. And of course, being mathematically safe is good too. But I've got to say, even if we hadn't been mathematically safe, I would have expected us, with 4 games to go, to get mathematically safe.
And with 4 games to go, what do you demand and what do you expect from the squad?
Well, you demand always that a player, we're professionals. We have 38 games a year, plus the odd cup game. And, each and every one of those occasions is something which puts an onus on you to perform to the best of your ability, to do the job that you're paid for. If you've been brought in for certain skills, we need to see those skills. There can't be, in terms of our demands, any lessening in the demands we make on the players to play Southampton 2 days after we mathematically secure, if you like, our Premier League, than playing in the first game of the season. Now, of course, people are human beings. We take all of that into account. We do. But in terms of demands, our demands remain as high as they've always been throughout the season. And I hope that the players share that, because they also, they're proud. It's not easy to become a Premiership player. You have to go through an awful lot of heartache and work, and before someone says to you, you are a good Premiership player. So it's up to them, I think, to make certain that every time we take the field between now and the final game of the season, that they give the performances that they know they're capable of giving and that they know we are actually demanding from them.
You beat Southampton 1-0 in the reverse fixture. How do you approach this game 8 months on?
Well, it was a long time ago, that 8 months ago. I mean, in fact, I even confuse these days between games that were played at the end of last season and the games that were played at the start of this season. We don't approach it particularly differently. We had a lot of respect for Southampton when they came and played us here. I remember it being a very tight game and we were fortunate enough to get the goal that got us the 3 points, but it certainly wasn't a case of in any way outplaying them from start to finish. And we know it's going to be equally difficult, perhaps even slightly more difficult now because they've had such a good season, really. It's strange that they aren't higher up the table because they've had a lot of strange results and happenings, and they also have been hit by injuries to key players. But we have enormous respect for them. I think they're a very, very good team. The manager, Hasselhoodl, has done an exceptional job. And, you know, if we're going to go there tomorrow night and win, we're going to have to play really well.
And lastly from me, Roy, have you got any injury updates? I know you updated us last time with Sacco, Wickham and Ferguson as well.
No, Ferguson's back. I didn't mention MacArthur last time, which is a massive miss because he's such an important player to us and a player for whom I've got so much admiration and affection. I suppose I've been disappointed that we've not been able to use him for quite a period of time now, and I've sort of numbed myself into accepting that it's not happening. But MacArthur really is the most important of the players that we have missing because he was actually a key member of our team up to 5-6 weeks ago when he got the injury, and we haven't seen him since. When it comes to Nathan Ferguson, you know, we haven't really seen him for 18 months, and when it comes to Mamadou Sakho, we haven't seen him since January.
Thank you very much for your time today, Roy, and good luck for Tuesday.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Go to Ian Abrahams of TalkSport.
Hi Roy, how are you?
I'm all right, Ian. Thank you. Yourself?
Very well, thank you. Always good to see you. Congratulations, by the way, on staying up. Has this been a harder season than before?
It's been harder, I think, through COVID. I mean, I don't know necessarily it's been harder in terms of the performances that you've needed to produce. We probably have had several situations this year where we've lost key players. You know, we've had Sakho and Tompkins out basically the whole season. We had Wilf out for a long period, Schlupp out for a long period, and now MacArthur out for a long period. These are all key players in our setup. So in that respect, it's probably been a bit harder as well. Although I can't, when I cast my mind back, give you a root and branch explanation of who was missing 2 years ago. It melts into one. But I think COVID has made it much harder for everybody. I think it's been a tough season for every club this season because, you know, playing as we've done in these surreal circumstances behind closed doors has made extra demands basically on everybody. And we've missed the lifeblood of our sport, you know, the lifeblood which is provided by the fans, and the support, the tension, the excitement, the inspiration we get from them. We've missed all of that, and we've had to somehow generate it from within. And I personally am full of admiration for the Premier League and the Premier League teams and everyone connected with them in the way that they've covered that during this period and kept football alive and kept so many people happy that football's alive because, you know, we've provided perhaps a very important area of entertainment for them at times when there hasn't been much other entertainment possible.
How have you generated that energy from within? Because, you know, you won't have been able to see members of your family, you won't have been able to talk about good games, bad games with them. I mean, how have you yourself managed to generate all this energy from within?
Well, I live a hermit-like existence, so I'm probably not the best person to ask that question. Our son lives abroad and we see him as much as we can, but that's always been limited for a large number of years now, especially when he was living in America, because it's not like popping down the road or jumping in the car to go and see him. And my wife and I basically, you know, we lead a pretty quiet life, and certainly my life has, from as long as I can remember, been dedicated to football, really, and the job I'm doing. So from a personal basis, I haven't really suffered that much at all. And it's been quite easy for me to continue generating any energy that I could possibly generate because, I've been more than happy with my life. And, I haven't suffered any moments where I've been concerned about what's going on. But I do think your question's a valid one. And I think for a lot of people, they could actually relate much more to, what it's cost them during this period. I, by contrast, am grateful that the football's continued, that the Premier League has continued, that my life has continued pretty much as normal. And I unfortunately have had to miss out, like everyone, on a few things I would quite like to have done. But I must say, to suggest that's a hardship, that would be really stretching the point.
Might you be able to extend your hermit-like existence next season? I mean, I keep asking you every week about whether you're going to tell me if you're going to stay on or not. Well, you're safe now. We're near the end of the season. I can't wait that much longer for you to impart this piece of information I've been waiting for.
Well, I don't think any information I impart will be world-shattering anyway, for the first part. And secondly, as I've said all along, I want to finish this season well. And I want to make certain that, we don't in any way do anything that will affect our chances of playing well and doing well in the final games. Let's get those games done, and then there's plenty of time to give answers to any particular questions I would get. But at the moment, I'm not prepared to do it at this moment in time, because I say there are more important things on the horizon for me, namely Southampton tomorrow night, and followed up by the visit of Aston Villa.
Always the pro. Last one. It looks like Fulham, if they don't go down tonight, might go down at the weekend, which I know will sadden you. It will mean that 2 of the 3 that came up last season have gone straight back down again. Is it harder for teams to come up, to stay up now? And off the back of that, is it therefore slightly easier for teams that are already there and established now to just stay in the Premier League?
Again, difficult question, in the sense that you and people around you have a lot of statistics with regard to that, going back over 10 years, and I don't always have that at hand, and I have to trust my memory, which is a bit dangerous. I think there's been quite a few occasions, Fulham have been up and down a couple of times, Norwich certainly, West Brom certainly, so it's certainly not an unusual occurrence. I think it's getting harder and harder with the teams that come up. I think that, okay, you could say that West Brom and Fulham have gone down, but I think that they've played some very good football and done some very, very good things. And, they can point, I'm certain, to a lot of ill fortune here and there. And we, who have survived, we would have to say there, but for the grace of God, go I. I don't think it's going to get any easier for the teams, who are in the league necessarily, who are perhaps in that bottom half of the table where relegation is always a possibility. I think the league gets stronger, especially at the top, so it's harder and harder for us bottom half teams to compete with the top 6 or 7 teams in the country. And the teams that come up are organised and have good players, and they invest. I mean, let's be fair, you could never accuse Fulham of not investing in trying to stay up. You couldn't accuse West Bromwich Albion of not investing in trying to stay up. So, we're aware in our position, looking at a 9th season, that's great, but a lot of work still needs to be done, and we must never, for one moment, take anything for granted and just believe that 9 seasons would definitely lead to the 10th and onwards. That's important indeed. And as for Fulham, their situation today is not so different to the situation where I found myself with the team in 2008. I think we took 12 points out of the last 15 to stay out that year, and were written off many weeks before, when we were 2-0 down at half-time at Manchester City, and we'd have been mathematically incapable of staying up. So I'm hoping that the club hasn't lost heart. I'm hoping that they'll go out tonight and win the game and keep themselves in with a shout at least, because of course you can't disassociate yourself with those 2.5 years I had with Fulham, which were fantastic years for me and the club. And, you always leave a part of your heart behind in all the clubs where you work.
Brilliant, Roy. Always a privilege. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you,
We'll go to George Sessions of PA.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. You sort of mentioned last week, I think, about how it's nice to sort of have quite a big number of the squad available, only sort of a few out injured. Is this game tomorrow sort of one you might look at sort of to make a few changes? You know, ordinarily you probably wouldn't if it was a Saturday, but given the quick turnaround, is it likely you sort of be forced a little bit to change things up?
Yeah, we'll have to think about the quick turnaround. There's no doubt about that. You know, there might be players that we need to really assess tomorrow and check whether playing them in another game so close to the last one is a good idea or not. But in answer to your question, I don't intend to make wholesale changes. You know, we want to finish the season well. I'm anxious to keep putting what I think is, you know, the best team we can put out on the day onto the field to win the game. So it's certainly not going to be a question for me of saying, right, we've now passed 40 points. We now can't be caught mathematically. This is the time to hand out free passes, if you like, to players. I've got a 20-year-old man squad at the moment. I've actually got 22 players who are all available and ready to play. But on the other hand, they all want to play. So the ones that I actually take out, who've been playing regularly for someone else, they're not going to be happy with me because they want to play too. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not going to be any free passes. It'll be if we need to change anybody, to give them a rest because we think that it could be a danger playing them in two matches so close together, I'll do that. But otherwise, you won't be looking for that many wholesale changes in the team.
Just on the injuries, finally, I sort of mentioned Nathan and James McArthur won't play this season. Is that the same situation for Connor and Mamadou as well?
Connor, I don't know. I mean, I would doubt whether Connor will recover. You know, it's a muscle injury. It's pretty unlikely that he'll recover. James Tompkins, I think he could possibly be involved. Nathaniel Klein, the same. They would be okay. I think if I needed them to come in and play, despite having missed quite a lot in recent weeks. And Nathan Ferguson is now training. He's done 2 sessions with the first team. You know, where he's been cleared of all the things that the sports science and medical people require today to say to us, the staff, coaching staff, okay, he's fine, he can train, you don't have to look after him, just put him in and use him. He's had 2 sessions like that. So the thought of possibly throwing him in the last 2 weeks of the season when he hasn't played for 18 months would have been absolutely crazy to even contemplate it. He's got to get through these next 2 weeks of training, finish the season on that training field, training every day with the team as we leave to go up to Liverpool, and then prepare himself to get a really good pre-season and make certain that when next season begins, he's available for us. That's what's got to happen with him. But he understands that. That's his goal, that's his aim. And at the moment, looking at him out there, I see no reason why he's not going to achieve that goal.
Okay.